Hi everyone, this is Sam here, a current college student at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. Welcome to my podcast, College Conscience, where we talk about the good, the bad, and everything in between with the college experience. With each episode, I focus on a different topic pertaining to college life with a different friend, and I really want to hear their perspectives and see what advice they have for me and anyone who might listen about that specific topic. Some examples include health and wellness, academics, professional career, exploration, and even more. So if you're interested in any of those topics, please stick around and hear what my friends have to say. Hey Amanda, thank you so much for deciding to be on my podcast. Really excited to talk about our topic today with you. Can you just quickly introduce yourself to the audience as well as what we will be talking about?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Amanda, and today we're going to be talking about relationships in college, but not necessarily just of the romantic kind, like all of the important interpersonal relationships, mainly friendships, actually.
Yeah, so on that topic, you are a current junior, but you entered Georgetown in the fall of 2021, so pretty
Yes.
recently. So when you were entering, how did you feel about having to make friends in a new environment? What were you looking forward to? What were you nervous about?
Yeah, I actually thought about this a lot coming into Georgetown. So when I went to high school, I was in the same town for K through 12, so I had a long time to like make really long-lasting friendships with people that lasted years. And so by the end of high school, I felt like I had a solid friend group that was not only like had my back, but also I had a long-standing history with. And then coming into college, I was really nervous because I was scared that I wouldn't be able to make close friends because my standard for close friends was so high. And I was worried about whether or not, I would have people that like emotionally cared about me because I really value like emotional depth in my relationships with people. And so I was worried like I wouldn't be able to cultivate that for like, months into college and then I would feel lonely. Um, but if you are worried like me, because I feel like that's a pretty common worry that a lot of people have coming in, it really does like at least for me worked itself out, and I think of myself as lucky in that way. So when I first came in, like college, has an orientation program that sort of like forces you to at least meet some people, and a lot of people don't stay with those people in from orientation, but you might be like me and you actually maybe will. I actually like two of like my best friends I met through like orientation, and also I happen to be next door neighbors to them. So it's about like finding people in the proximity or through classes. But even like in the beginning, like everyone's looking for friends. So you don't have to worry too much because like everyone's really open to making new friends. But yeah, so I made my closest friends through people who actually like lived on my floor. And that was like really nice because we could, since we lived in the same place, we could always, go around campus together. And I do know, like, even speaking to my friends who go to different universities, like, that was a pretty common theme, which was like making friends who like actually live near you, because I think that's a very natural transition. Um, but in terms of like like forming like emotional depth, I guess in those connections, I guess it's about finding people who are also wanting and willing to do that, which most people coming into college are, and also like people who are like willing to like not only open themselves up but like be very welcoming when you yourself open up. So for me, I was lucky in the sense that like all my close friends in the beginning of college, like we would talk until like 4 or 5 a.m. I know, like jobless freshman activities. But like we would talk late into the night, like getting to know each other and like sharing each other our opinions on like so many different things. A lot of times also interpersonal relationships. Um, and that's sort of, I actually thought like I had like really good like emotional depth with a lot of my close friends. Like even just like 2 months into college, I was feeling really secure. And I know for some people that like takes a lot longer, but I just like would tell people to not lose hope because like finding those right friends is something like you truly want to value, which kind of transitions into like why I think my friends are so good, and like
Yeah, before we get into that, I
Yeah.
think there's definitely a lot of
Mhm.
great stuff there. I'm curious if we can go back to the orientation program you talked about that colleges have with those two friends that you just happen to meet and stay close with. It is true that for most people, like the orientation groups you are semi forced into don't always last, but
Mhm.
I'm curious like how you managed to like pick up a good vibe with those two people that lasted beyond the orientation group. Like were there any personality things that worked out or like situations that specifically just helped you feel like you wanted to keep being friends with them?
Yeah, sure. So, um, I guess the first person I want to talk about, it was funny because we were in the same orientation group and like I was actually like late to one of the orientation events, so I had to like scramble in and find a seat and everyone was sat down already. And I remember like us sitting down next to her and like thinking like I was like intimidated because I thought she was pretty. But anyways, that's like irrelevant. But I remember like being intimidated, which by the way is like at least for me, like pretty natural because like I don't know anyone, so then I'm easily intimidated by everyone, right? But then like as soon as we started talking, she was so friendly, and immediately I was like, oh wow, like I was intimidated for literally no reason. So it's important like not to get into your head about that, because like a lot of people like they might be serious on the outside, like you probably are worrying and then look serious on your face as well. But if you just start talking to people and they crack a smile, like everything is fine. Um, and so I think that was almost like sort of out of necessity in the sense that we bonded over being confused, not knowing what was going on, and like not having anyone to talk to, so we talked to each other. But like, even like sticking to that one person through all the orientation activities, like walking to them together, was a way like to establish like that sort of history because then, orientation kind of becomes like a drag by the end of the days. And
One
so
person's opinion. We appreciate all the work that goes into orientation, especially from our student leaders, one of who I know pretty well. But yes, continue on.
yes, still appreciate them. Very much appreciate it. Yeah, a lot of effort goes into orientation. I recognize that.
But as your opinion
Yes.
goes.
Um, more just so it gets like tiring. Not that the events are any worse. It just like you get socially exhausted, or at least I did, because I have a social battery. Um, but like bonding over that and like being like, okay, like it's not so bad. Sorry, I don't mean to frame it in a bad way, but it's not like it's like a lot more bearable if it's like, all right, I'm like go with this person, and then you plan to like go together. You motivate each other to go to things.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
for sure. And then going on to how you talked about getting close with your floor, which I agree is like pretty common, especially if you don't have private bathrooms like some of our buildings do, because then like just
Yeah.
by chance you'll be seeing a lot more people. So as you got closer to them and you said you guys would go around everywhere, like what were your guys' favorite spots to go to? I assume like the dining hall was a spot you guys went to a lot, but were there any moments in particular places where you felt like it was kind of like a spot for you guys to consistently go to?
Yeah, so I don't know if it was a super specific spot on campus, but I do have like two key memories. Like the first is when a big group of my floor actually all went to M Street together. That was a really fun outing, and I think it's like relatively easy to organize because in the beginning everyone wants to explore the nearby area. No one's been to M Street before or have only been once, etc. So like going as a group outing there, because on the walk there, it was like everyone's like figuring out like how do we get there. Easy walk, but for the first time, it's always like how do we get there? What turn do we make? You can talk to a variety of people on the walk, depending how big your group is. But that's also where I like first talked to one of my closest friends. Now was on that walk down to M Street for the first time. Starbucks is a popular spot. Brandy is a popular stop. Gongcha is a popular stop. Those were all like stops I remember making, and just thinking like, oh, like I could definitely see myself doing this again with like the like more friends that I meet because it's super fun. And I still do that with my friends like to this day, like go on like fun little short M Street dates. Um, and then the other spot I actually want to mention is kind of funny. One of the orientation events was on Levy Esplanade.
And can you explain for people who might not be familiar what that is?
Yeah, so Levy Esplanade is this area on the kind of like, yeah, the roof of Levy actually. there is a staircase going up there, sort of like near the intersection of Levy and Regents. You go up those stairs, and NSO was new student orientation. So they had an event there during that program, which is like how I got first introduced to the location. And I noticed, since it was the event was at night, that like it's really pretty up there because it is a rooftop. You get a really nice view, like over campus, over like the field, and it's just really nice. Yeah, and there's like lights. It's a big like wide open space. There's some green. There's chairs. So when I was getting close to one of my first like close friends, actually, like we decided to go up there like when there wasn't a new student orientation thing, because we thought it was cool. And like we walked up there, it was still like, you know, early in the semester, so it was still warm, and we just like leaned, like rested our arms like over the ledge that oversees campus, and then we just talked for like hours. And I still like think about that night a lot, because I'm like, it was just like a really like large, open, but like kind of intimate space, and it's like very quiet and pretty at night. So I like the spot a lot as well on campus.
Yeah, no, it's a nice spot. I also really like that spot, so I'm glad that other people appreciate it as well. So it sounds like there's been a lot of great memories at the beginning of freshman year, but now if we can talk a bit more about not only the rest of the fall of freshman year, but also in the spring, and if anything changed with your friendships there, that'd be great. So just like as the year went on, how did the friendships ebb and flow?
Yeah, of course. I think fall was pretty solid. And I will say like there was a transition. But that was mostly between fall and spring. So through fall, it was like relatively consistent. It was for me at least, it was like I got my first set of like good close friends at college, and then it only kept branching out. I didn't me personally, like I didn't make a ton of more close friends, but that's because like I was satisfied with like my smaller group of close friends, and then I made like a lot of like acquaintances and mutual friends through them as like everyone was branching out. So I felt like I knew a couple of people, yeah, like from each person that I was close to. I knew a couple of people from classes or lab, because I'm a STEM student. And of course, like I knew people through CSA, Chinese Student Alliance, which is a club that I'm still part of, shout out. So like everyone was branching out, but it was like not hard to like stay grounded with like the close friends I made in like the first couple weeks. And I do like very much remember though, like my freshman fall, even though I like loved my friends and like I felt like I was good friends with them, I feel like there was still a tad bit of insecurity within me, in the sense of like, now that I had become friends with them, I felt this like really, I had a strong desire to like never be alone. Like I always wanted to do things with them. I never wanted to like eat meals alone. I didn't really want to go to the library alone. I probably should have, like for studying, but it was, for me, it was always like I would be the person to like text like the big group text and be like, anyone want to go to the library with me? Anyone want to grab dinner with me? I was always like looking for a companion to do things with. Like I was always there, and I pretty much always also made myself available for like when other people wanted to do things. If they were like, oh, like I'm here, anyone want to join? Like I would always hop on that. I loved like just being around them all the time, to the point where like I didn't like being alone. And if I was alone for like a full day, like I got kind of sad, which was a very interesting state to be in, because that's not really my like typical state. I'm usually like a little more introverted than that. And then but then like a big transition happened going into the spring. I think like within my entire friend group, there came like a sort of new understanding that like now that the fall was over, like all the new stuff, all like the fooling around kind of that comes with like, you know, your first semester on a campus, like, you know, like didn't have to come to a complete stop, but like things had to be reeled in, things had to be toned down. And also like, oh, like I'm actually here because I need to go to school. Like I need to focus on my classes because like that's what I'm ultimately here for, is my degree, right? So there was like a mutual understanding between everyone that like a lot of us needed to like double down on our classes and our schoolwork more. And also some of my friends like got on campus jobs, either at like labs or sorry, even also off-campus jobs, like part-time jobs as well. So everyone was a bit more crunched for time spring semester for sure. And that was including me. So I like was just a lot busier with my classes. I had like a 19 credit semester or something. Um, and so naturally, like I just didn't have as much time to hang out with my friends. And in the beginning, that was weird for me because I started like spending a lot more. Like I came back from winter break, and then it just suddenly felt different because I felt like I was spending a lot more meals alone, a lot more time in the library alone, and I was like, oh, like I should probably like this is something normal to do, but to me it wasn't normal at the time.
It was a change
Yes,
from the
yeah, it
fall.
was definitely a change. And then I guess the biggest transition was also like literally like 2 weeks into coming back onto campus for spring semester is when I met my current boyfriend. And obviously that's a big change. So yeah, like I met him and then like things went well, and like probably like within a month later like we started officially dating, and like that was like a whole nother thing I had to juggle on top of schoolwork and my friendships. And so yeah, it was a lot. And as like I would think is natural for the beginning of a lot of relationships, I pretty much wanted to spend like all my free time with him. It was like brand new person. I liked him a lot. Still obviously like him a lot because I'm still with him, but
But it's that like new and exciting feeling
yes.
that you have to work to like recapture in other ways, I think down the line. Not like in a bad way, but it just you
Yeah.
can't like get back the first times
Yeah,
you
you
do
really,
things.
yeah. I mean, like, I'm still very happy where I am right now. So, but yes, like, there are some like sparks and butterflies that happen in the beginning of every new relationship that it's like, it's very fluttery and it's very much so, something like, you just like want to be around that new person all the time because you just met them and you can't get enough of them. You only want more time with them. And so it's so like my spring sort of schedule sort of became like if I wasn't studying, which I was doing a lot more of than fall semester, it was like over the weekends, like I would want to spend as much time with him as possible.
And for context, he goes to a different DC school, so like there's also the transport and
Yes,
logistics
yes, that
component.
actually is a big part of it, because like over the weekdays I wouldn't be able to see him, so I would only go like I would pretty much spend like majority of weekends with him because that's the only time I could see him. But then that was sort of, it took away from the time that the weekend time I would normally spend with my friends. Um, and so, yeah, it sort of like without even me noticing, because I was like dealing with this brand new thing in my life, I was seeing my friends like less and less. And, like obviously I still enjoyed like them a lot and I still appreciated them a lot. It just sort of like, like I wasn't conscious of like how I should manage my time with them versus with him.
Right. Wow, those were so many good insights into Georgetown culture and specifically looking at friendships. But now let's talk about a moment late in the spring semester of last year where Amanda had to figure out some things in terms of her relationships. No, definitely like I think a struggle a lot of people go through, especially with new relationships. So I'm curious, like in that spring semester later on, was there some sort of breaking point where either you felt like you had to talk to your friends or vice versa about this change in the dynamics and where everyone's headspaces and priorities were?
Yeah, so I feel like there was maybe like an underlying tension that built throughout the semester between me and like I would say two of my friends, although I think my overall friend group like backed up those two friends for and like validated their feelings towards it. Um and it wasn't sort of like, and this is why I treasure my friends so much because it wasn't really a sort of like anger or resentment, but more so like a worry for me and like a sadness that they weren't seeing me as much. And so I think it happened actually towards the very end of the semester. So they kind of gave me a little bit of like waiting time, if that makes sense. And I also appreciate that because they also were. I remember like after like they sort of talked to me about it, they were saying things like, "Oh, like I wasn't sure if I shouldn't have even brought up in the first place," because like they are very like forgiving and understanding with me. But what happened was at the end of the semester, like my friends asked if they could talk to me, um, and they basically told me that it felt like they weren't seeing me a lot, and it felt like I was mostly just hanging out with my boyfriend, on the weekends at least, or like, yeah, like, other like friend group things. It was like, it felt like even if I went to them like at night, like I would always want to go back to my boyfriend. Or even when we were in the library together, like I would step out sometimes to like FaceTime him. And they were just like, oh, like, yeah, like, it made them feel a little bit sad that it felt like I wasn't with them as much. And during the times that I was with them, like my mind was a little bit elsewhere if I was worried about him calling me or him texting me or something versus being like fully engaged while I was like having spending time with them. And I definitely think like what they were like telling me was valid. Also, I have like a relatively like interesting relationship with a lot of my close friends, which is that we share some classes together. So it was like a weird balance of like, why do I only see you in class? Like I thought we had a relationship outside of just like being classmates, like we're friends. So that was definitely like pretty like an eye opener for me. It had definitely been something on my mind earlier in the semester, just that like, oh, like I hope like my friends are okay. Like, oh, or I would think like, oh, I haven't seen them in a while. Like I hope I see them. But my threshold for how much I needed to see them had lowered because I had this like new person in my life, right? Like freshman fall me, my threshold was so high. It was like I wanted to see all my friends every day. And I think that's how my friends grew to know me as well, which is like the person who wants to hang out like almost every day. And then I like almost suddenly became the person who hangs out with them like every other week.
Yeah, like 100 to 0.
Yeah. And so I think that was like a harsh transition, on probably both ends, but like I didn't experience it as much because like I was so caught up with like my new feelings for this person. But I really liked that they talked to me about it, and when they did talk to me about it, they approached it like very kindly. Like literally none of that. I would never tolerate this, like ever being spoken to like this. But like none of like the raising the voice, none of like no like passive aggressiveness or anything. It was just like flat out honest, like how they felt, and they were, they gave me a lot of benefit of the doubt in the sense of like, oh, like we don't think you're intentionally trying to like make this bad, but like we gotta like lay it out on the table, like how we feel. And I was super grateful that they approached me and that they told me about it. And like I am the type of person who says that please like approach me with something, like if there's something wrong within our relationship, and I try to stand by that. So they did, and then I listened to them, and I obviously apologized, like because I made them feel like less important in my life, and even though like they were still very, very important to me. And I was like, okay, like clearly like my actions though need to like reflect how much I care about these people. Like if I do care about them as much as I say, then I need to like show that I do, and I need to like really like schedule time for them, just like how I schedule time for my boyfriend, and I can't, just drop everything willy-nilly and then not think about it. So I was like, it was definitely like a learning curve that I went up in terms of like how responsible I feel in terms of managing my interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, I think you have amazing friends. I genuinely don't think a lot of friends would do that. Like I also feel very lucky where I feel like my close friends would do the same to me. But I think me and my relationship, it's a bit different. That's for another episode. Everything's good, but I think that's definitely like so good of your friends and for you to like have that important communication, because it really takes both sides, right? Like your friends could have the best intentions, but if you weren't ready to hear that, it would have hurt the friendships, and vice versa. If your friends just didn't say anything openly but were just passive aggressive and just like ghosting on you as well, then you would feel hurt and you would feel misunderstood. And I think this is such like an important lesson for people to like actualize, because I think it's so easy to like say talk to that person or like express their feelings, but I think this is like a really great example of this actually happening. So I'm really glad that it did happen and that your friends and you were able to have that conversation. That was such an amazing story. Now, besides having amazing friends and a great relationship, Amanda will talk about what she would tell younger people, especially those coming to Georgetown, on how exactly to approach starting those friendships and relationships. And just to wrap up, to look forward, well, first I want to hear about like how that conversation reshifted the balance, and then as like a follow-up or more of a natural transition, just advice you'd have to close for freshmen or sophomores who might be going through similar friend situations?
Yeah, of course. So after that conversation, obviously I had a lot of like thinking to do, but it definitely opened my eyes, and I was really determined to make sure like I, never made them feel that way again, and that like, I would put my money where my mouth is, that's the phrase. And basically I would like change, like action wise, I would change for them because I verbally told them I'm sorry and I'm gonna change for you. And so I knew I needed to. It was the end of the semester, so it was like a little bit of a weird time to like say I would change a lot just because we were all going to go our separate ways for the summer. But then again, right, like amazing friends, they also understood that. They were like, yeah, like we just hope like for next semester, like things will be different. And I was like, I'm really glad that you guys are going to like stick with me for next semester because like I'll show you. And coming into this semester, definitely it's like, for me, I now am like really stringent on scheduling with everyone. So not only with my friends, but also like with my boyfriend, like with everything else. Obviously, like I had been familiar with scheduling for like academic things, but that's pretty much it. And I was like, no, like I need to schedule all my free time and like my time that I spend with other people as well. So it's really like pushing with my friends to be like, oh, like we're going to catch up and grab lunch on this day. Like, oh, like this coming Friday, like we are going to go to dinner together. We're going to get ready together to go to a party. Like, saying those things in advance and then sticking by them. And also that's helpful for me in the sense that when I like really have a plan with someone, then I know that I can't back out and be like, oh, like let me go and hang out with my boyfriend or something like that. Because when I have those things scheduled, I like know, like, I'm not going to back out on them. And it's also also like this is also, I feel like, a natural transition that happens also like a couple more months into your relationship, which is like the understanding that you don't have to spend every waking minute with each other.
Things die down. For people who don't know, things just go downhill.
No, not downhill feelings wise.
Not downhill feelings wise.
Emotionally,
yes.
I'm still very much in love. More in love than ever, okay? But
yes, all jokes. Relationships, healthy ones do evolve in that way that Amanda is describing.
Mm-hmm. Like it's like once, like, again, I mean, different topic, but, you gotta, like, as much as finding good friendships, you better be finding, like, the right person to be in a relationship with so that, like, this transition is smooth. But, yeah, it's, like, that is stable, and so it's, like, like, my partner is super understanding that, like, if I want to spend, like, I'm like, oh, yeah, like, I have this with my friends, like, there is absolutely no issue. It's, like, okay, go have fun with your friends, because, like, I'll see you later. And so I definitely, switch to just like really prioritizing more time with my friends and then feeling like being like self-conscious of like, do I feel like I've seen this friend enough, like being honest with myself, because I think in like last semester in the spring it was sort of like, oh, I was worried I wasn't spending enough time with them, but I didn't want to follow the train of thought through because it was a scary train of thought, right? Like, oh, what if they feel the same? Then what if they're mad at me or something? But now I'm honest with myself and I just like ask myself, like, do I think I've seen this friend enough? Do I think I'm like maintaining my end of the friendship? And then if not, it's like, okay, well then like I should reach out or like I should make sure we do something. And I know that sounds like, oh, like, your friendships like shouldn't be like so high maintenance in your mind, but I feel like anything you really value, like it doesn't feel like work or like doesn't feel like, oh, this is so hard to maintain. Like if it's people you love, then it's something that you want to keep, you want to like actively maintain.
Right, for sure. And then just one more question for you, though you've given such great responses already. If you were talking to an incoming freshman right now, let's pretend it's August 2023 already, and they're nervous about making friends, like what's the simplest piece of advice you can give them before they go to their first orientation program activity?
I would say be like the most genuine plus outgoing version of yourself. And what I mean by that is I do think you should be the most genuine form of yourself, just because like if you're not, then the friends you make with like your like kind of fake persona, like it's not going to last because eventually you're going to want to be genuine and then you're not going to vibe with those people anymore. But I do want to alter that a little bit by saying like also be maybe a little more outgoing than you normally are if you are someone like me who like leans a bit more introverted. But I think even if you're extroverted, you get a bit nervous like being in a new setting. And so what I mean by that is just don't get in your head about looking weird, being the first person to approach people, because everyone is in the same boat. So if you're like the more outgoing version of yourself and you're the one who like opens the conversation in a group, like you actually make it like way more comfortable for everyone else to open up as well. And you'll find that most people are not nearly like as scary to approach or anything like that as you think. And so be genuine, but push yourself a little bit, because like just that little bit of push could have like a huge reward in terms of like really finding like your people.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Amanda, for being on the podcast again. I think people will get so much value, especially underclassmen, from this, but also anybody who just has relationship situations. So yeah, thank you again.
Of course.
Hi everyone, this is Sam here, a current college student at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. Welcome to my podcast, College Conscience, where we talk about the good, the bad, and everything in between with the college experience. With each episode, I focus on a different topic pertaining to college life with a different friend, and I really want to hear their perspectives and see what advice they have for me and anyone who might listen about that specific topic. Some examples include health and wellness, academics, professional career, exploration, and even more. So if you're interested in any of those topics, please stick around and hear what my friends have to say.